Ernita Van Wyk. I work for SANBI in Cape Town with the Invasive Species Program. And I'll be talking about the management of Spartina alterniflora in the Groot Brak estuary. And I'll be focusing on some of the management challenges we've been experiencing there. And I've been doing this work with Virgil Jacobs, who's our contract manager, and he's here in the audience somewhere, as well as Janine Adams and Karen Rudden from Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. So just a bit of background on the species. Spartina is a species of cordgrass. It's adapted to salt marshes and estuaries. Its native ground is the Atlantic and Gulf coasts of North America. It's invasive in several places, in salt marshes of the Pacific states of the US, notably Washington State, they've done quite a lot of work on this plant, China and New Zealand. It was found spreading in the Groot Brak estuary between Mossel Bay and Geogie in 2004. And at the time, NMMU, which is Nelson Mandela University, they became interested in this population there, and they've done some research and published a paper last year, Janine Adams and colleagues, on the plant trays and spread of this plant in the Groot Brak estuary. And the point I want to make with this is that this paper has provided our program with a lot of the scientific basis on which we base in management and the basic information. So this has been an important work for us when managing the plant. And then just to position you or to show you where the population is, the red polygons is where the plant grows, that we map the plant. And the river coming down here is the Groot Brak River, and the estuary is down the bottom right-hand corner. You can't see the sea in this picture. Mossel Bay is on your left, and George and Eisner on your right, and the big road up the top there is the M2. So just to orientate you. And as you can see, there are 19 small patches in this population, so it's spread around a little bit. So why do we bother with this plant? A couple of reasons why. It forms dense monospecific stands where it grows in estuaries, and this causes a lot of sediment and mud accumulation around the stems, and this modifies the natural water circulation. The invasions of this plant also result in a trophic shift from algal to detritus-based food web. And the reason for this is because the below-ground biomass of the species is very, very large in proportion to the above-ground biomass. It's about 5 times bigger underground than above ground. And as a result, the richness and diversity of fish and shore and wading birds are reduced. So it has that sort of impact on the kinds of things that people like to, well, ecological functioning as well as people's enjoyment of birding. Then it also has the potential to hybridise with the local Spartina maritana, which we find in a few of our estuaries around the coast. And the research done by NMMU showed that if this particular population is left unmanaged, it can spread at a rate of sort of 0.162 hectares per year, and that eventually it's able, if left, it is able to take over or invade about 41% of the total estuary area. And this slide is just a picture to show you on the right here. This is the patch of Spartina and the Groot Brak, and this is a Sarcocoria sort of field, and you can see it's like just spreading in there. So it really does get into these beautiful native Sarcocoria vegetation types. Then there are actually a few factors which made us think that we really, as a management goal, we should be attempting an eradication of the species, and that's why EDR is working on it. And so there are a couple of factors in the favour of eradication. There's only one population that we know about. Janine Adams and her team have looked around various estuaries around the coast, and they've looked for this plant and they haven't found it. And since SANBI got involved, we also had a flyer printed, and we've distributed this really widely, and still no records. So far, we think there's only one population. The population is just under 1 hectare. It's really small, those patches all together. There's good accessibility to the population. You can put on a pair of gumboots in low tide and just walk right up to the plants. And also it's relatively easy to tell it apart from other estuarine grasses and sedges. It exudes salt on the leaves, so it's quite easy to see these salt crystals. And also the way the leaves are arranged around the stem is at a very distinctive 45 angle, so quite easy to find it and tell it apart from others. There's the population in the Groot Brak, strange enough, it produces seed. Actually, that's wrong. It produces seed, but the viability is 0%. And NMNU tested this, and there is no viability in the seeds of this population. So that really is a great plus for us. The authorities in Washington State, and they've written a lot about their experiences, and they've managed their population of Spartina quite successfully, and this gives us a lot of hope in what we're doing in the Groot Brak population. And then last but certainly not least, we've got very supportive institutions. We've got resources, and residents in the Groot Brak area have been very supportive. And I think Jacobus Vars, I don't know if he's here, he was working for Water and George is particularly supportive to our efforts there. So just some of the things that made us think, this is a real possible eradication, so this should be easy. But we found that, in fact, it's not easy. Our first sort of set of challenges is around the estuary context and the sort of estuary ecology, basically. The mouth is a temporarily open, closed mouth, and what this means for us is that when the mouth is closed during winter, the water levels rise, the plants are submerged almost entirely, and we simply can't work on it. And that means that we've got a window period in which to treat and monitor the plant, and that's during the summer months. But on top of that, particularly when we use herbicides, we need to wait for low wind speeds or no wind, as well as tides. If you have a low tide in midnight, you can't work in midnight, so in the night. So we have to wait until tides are sort of nicely situated, sort of between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. So we have to work around these limitations. Then the second set of challenges is really just around administration and on top of the estuary context. So initially, Jacobus and his team actually tried mechanical clearing, which was not that effective. And then there were long discussions about, well, if that's not going to work, then we need to start thinking about herbicides, and the Washington State people have been using that. But of course, there are lots of questions about the use of herbicides in a sensitive estuarine system. So that discussion carried on and on. By 2010, permission was granted by the Department of Agriculture for us to use Kilomax herbicide, which is a glyphosate, suited for aquatic environments. And note that, so it took 6 years from the discovery of the plant in 2004 until 2010. No treatments could be done except for mechanical treatment, which didn't work. But it did give NMNU a chance to get in there and do some of the baseline research, for which we are very grateful. Then, as I said, working for Water, George was involved, and they did some initial spraying, two treatments, and that was about 75% effective. But during 2012, no treatment was done because money got stuck in the system, and there were floods that year, so the plants were submerged for many more months than average, and we just couldn't get in there and do any work for that year. So when we did then SANBI got involved. Sorry, let me do a step back. We got involved in late 2012, late last year, but we also had delays with our administration and getting a contractor in the field. So delays. Finally, in January 2013, we started working on the population again and did some monitoring, but by then, the population had bounced back to 82% of the pre-treatment level of infestation. So it just shows you how persistent this plant is. Anyway, so lots of challenges and delays, and this made us really think hard about how we're managing, and we said, right, we need to maybe change our approaches here. The one thing we realized immediately was it's possible to herbicide treat that whole population in a day, and this led to our decision to do a contractor on standby approach rather than a multiple day contract. And the administrative difference between those two in a SANBI system is huge. The lead time on it for a standby contractor is about a week, so you can in a week get someone into the field, whereas the multiple day contract can take a month. So we've decided to go that route rather, and Virgil was sort of spearheading that. Then we also said, given that we've got this short window period to work in over a year, we must make sure that we're using the best possible treatment, and we're not actually sure that we've covered all those bases. And we also said we must carry on with the monitoring system, and we adapted the monitoring system that NMU designed. And so we do pre and post treatment. We do monitoring to see the effects of treatment, pre and post the treatment. Then just to show you the different management options we've been thinking about. The first option is mechanical clearing. The second one is foliar application. Third one is mowing, and then applying the herbicide with an interval of, say, a month, where you wait for the plant to resprout and grow to about 30 centimeters tall. And the fourth option is mowing and immediate cut stem herbicide spray, should I say. And then there have been various scholars, as you can see there, who have been thinking about these things and testing them and writing about it and making a case for each one of these management options. But the point I want to make with this is that we have to decide for our system and the limitations within our system which of these options are going to work best for us, which one or combination of which ones. And so what we're trying at the moment is we're testing option 2 and 3 and comparing them. And then just to get back to this mechanical removing, we sort of abandoned that as an option because when you get in there with a fork and you fork these things out, the below ground biomass is so big that you just spend so much time doing that, and you always leave little rhizomes left over and then they just come up again. So then we decided to try and test 2 and 3. So just to remind you, 2 is just a foliar application on the leaves, and 3 is mowing, waiting a bit for resprout and then spraying the herbicide. Then, so that's what we've been doing this year. It's early days still. Just to show you that polygon there is it's a third of the Spartina, almost a third of the Spartina population, which has been mowed and sprayed, and the rest of the population foliar sprayed. So we haven't done any monitoring yet. We've got to do that in the next season because now it's already too wet and to do any work on this plant for the winter. And then the take-home message. What we decided is that with this wonderful baseline research from NMU, but given the dynamic estuary system and the very short windows of opportunity for treatment and monitoring, we had to go for a sort of flexibility in our administration, and in particular getting contractors in the field, as well as structured experimentation to determine the most effective treatment, and making sure we have a monitoring system in place so that comparing of treatment options has a scientific basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernita. Are there any comments or questions?
Does the native Spartina, sorry, this one else here, does the native Spartina occur in the same place as this one?
It doesn't, no.
So you don't think there is a hybrid in South Africa yet?
No, I don't think there is. There has been one reported yet. But I think I don't know how they tested that, but that's what they've written about.
Ernita, 2 comments. You said you had 75% control with the glyphosate, but it came back to 82%. That suggests the glyphosate didn't work.
Yes. Graham, it was quite difficult to... that assessment was unfortunately not... It was not part of our monitoring system. It was with the eye estimate, that 75%. And also, what we need to think about is we've been applying Kilomax at 1 kilogram per hectare, and I think the label says you can go up to, sorry, not to 10 kilograms per hectare. I think you can go up to double that as the allowable, but we have to check that. So we've got to check. We might be able to increase the dosage and still stay within the effective range. So in lots of unknowns with the herb. You know, I said to Virgil the other day, like, this foliar doesn't work, and he said, well, we need to. He reminded me that we haven't tried a higher dose. So you know, the jury's still out on that. I think. I don't know. Maybe you have a comment on that, Bryce, because I've been wondering.
Glyphosate isn't the most translocated herbicide. So if you've got rhizomes, it doesn't get down to rhizomes. You have to have a continual, more than one application per year. Sprayed 2 or 3 times. Or change to a more translocated grass herbicide. So you're at the bottom of the estuary, your chances of damaging most of your herbicides in 1 hectare is going to be minimal, if any.
The other limitation we have, Graham, is that the Department of Agriculture gave us permission to use that, and it's really difficult to change the lines. So that's why we're going with this mowing plus spraying weeds. And also this season we started late and we managed 2 foliar applications, but as you mentioned, with a better season we could probably fit in 3 or 4 repeats.
I would honestly look at other herbicides and see, because if it's using what they said you can use, we could be carrying on doing this for the next 5 years and not getting any.
I've also seen on that pamphlet the guys in Washington have used Invasive, and I was thinking, goodness me, isn't that a bit hectic for an aquatic system? They use it quite successfully.
That's highly translocated, will get down to roots very, very quickly, and the combination of the 2 together, glyphosate and Invasive, would possibly take it out in the season.
We need to speak to the department.